Welcome back to Sports Time with Wolo and Stats on Sports 56 and 87.7 FM. This hour of Sports Time is brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. Here once again are Dave Wolosian and Brad Norsworthy.
Thank you, Gabe. This hour indeed brought to you by DeSoto Auto Sales. And each Friday we've been visiting with our friend Rick Horrow on the business of sports. And it's a lot of fun to visit with Rick. Austin Eldridge in with me today. Dave will be back on Monday. Rick on Twitter at Rick Horrow, sports business consultant, analyst, Harvard Law School visiting expert. You've seen him and heard him through the years on CNBC and MSNBC, and he's been with us on Fridays, and we love talking the business of sport. And, Rick, please tell me you're at the Monterey Peninsula at Pebble Beach as we speak. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I get the beat team. What is this? What the heck?
Well, we got vacation time.
Yeah, no, you should get vacation time. For me, life's a vacation. So,
Good.
I'm actually working. IRS, I'm working, okay? So don't start getting cute with this tape. I'm working hard, all right? It's hard to follow Brooks Koepka and get no emotion, but that's what makes this guy great.
So you
it's
are
hard
there?
to follow Tiger. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I watch it. And Tiger, by the way, has had a chip on his shoulder for the last 2 days. I don't know what's going on. I'd love to see him smile again. He was so appealing during Masters Week when he was smiling. I know he's frustrated, and I know he bogeyed his last 2 holes, and so that's part of the issue. But you got to be able to smile a little bit. That's what everybody fell in love with again in Augusta. And then here's the other piece of
Good
this,
point.
which I won't enjoy. I'm coming back on Father's Day on Sunday back to the East Coast. Primetime golf. I guess you guys will get it over with at like 9:30 Central Sunday. But how about Father's Day? Everybody listening, go play 36. That's what the family ought to let you do. And then you still have more than enough time to watch these guys tee off. It's wonderful.
What kind of ratings will Fox be looking at and for on Sunday without Tiger in the primetime mix?
Well, that's the thing. So, listen, Tiger shoots a 65 tomorrow. He's back in the primetime mix. So I'm not ready to call it a day on that. But I am willing to say that if Brooks Koepka is up there, I think people want to see unbelievable greatness, and I think the ratings will be good anyway because, Father's Day brunch with golf people that ends at dinner time or, late afternoon, but yet you still get to watch it prime time is something that golf fans are not used to. And so I think the ratings are going to be pretty good.
And it's not just a golf weekend for Fox. It's also the Women's World Cup. And you talk about the media companies taking advantage of the growing audience and advertiser interest in women's sports, particularly with this year's Women's World Cup in 2015. Fox Sports reportedly generated $40 million in ad revenue from that and expect to maybe double that this year.
Double that this year, and they only expected $17 million going into it 4 years ago. So they were wrong low at the end of that. They're wrong low this year, but that's good for them. Good for me because I took the United States and I gave 12 goals, and I'm still okay.
Very good.
That was amazing. There was more discussion. I was just catching up on some of the newspaper, the rags of the league, and USA Today had more discussion about sportsmanship, celebrations, 13 goals, and they took the right side for a change, which is, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the tournament. So it's like goal differential. You got to run up. If you could score 40 goals, you would score 40 goals because that's how the tournament is evaluated if and when the tiebreaker was necessary. So go to it.
Well, Rick, one of the things that I was really interested, I was reading some of the things you've talked about with your top issues for the week was the Iowa Cubs and the netting issue that's been a big topic of discussion in Major League Baseball, but a minor league team taking the forefront there, going ahead and extending it. How does that play in with the business of Major League? I know that involves collective bargaining a lot, and that's a bigger deal there, but is this going to kind of maybe spur that effort at the top level, or are we still going to see a lot of arguments about it?
Well, good for Sam Burnaby, the general manager of the Iowa Cubs, and because if people haven't done it in the 160, 159 other minor league teams in all Major League Baseball, that doesn't mean they're heartless. It just means that there are other structural issues. The netting itself, you just don't strap it up and put some Scotch tape around it. You have structures, poles. You got to worry about lighting, so you can't just do it in a day. So it's probably a big enough issue where a lot of parks have to do it in the off season anyway. And then there is the collective bargaining issue with the players. You would hope that gets resolved. So by the beginning of next season, you see a lot more netting. But I think, the Iowa Cubs ought to get credit. They could do it early, and they did.
And a real trailblazer this week in sports was late last week when the Big Ten formally announced the replacement to Jim Delaney, Kevin Warren, a trailblazer in the pro football ranks, Minnesota Vikings COO, and it was a blockbuster hire for the Big Ten.
Smartest guy in the room, top executive African-American in a football organization. Know Kevin well. He's a contributor to my sport business handbook, and trying to figure out why he wouldn't return my calls for a couple of weeks there.
He got real busy.
Because, well, yeah, but hey, there's busy and then there's too busy for me, so I'll remember. Okay,
that's right.
It's right. But at the end of the day, Big Ten got its man. He understands how to make deals. And listen, everybody involved in college athletics, as you know, at all levels, are in for a lot of creativity and a lot of kind of agita over the next few years. You got to worry about the pay for play and the Power Five and the governance issues and the one and done in basketball. So this is a time where you've got to have an athletic director / conference commissioner who really knows his stuff.
You really do, and someone that I was very close to, and I bet you knew very well, the late, great Mike Slive. Mike Slive, for Kevin Warren said for years, Mike Slive had been one of his most prominent pushers and friends and confidants, and I know Mike Slive, the revolutionary that he was, and I know he would be very proud of Kevin Warren.
Well, yeah, and the other thing about being a conference commissioner, and it's like being an owner or a commissioner of other leagues too, you got to herd all sorts of cats. You got to herd calicos, you got to herd lions, you got to herd a whole bunch of people. And SEC, for example, Vanderbilt gets a vote and Alabama gets a vote. The numbers and the economics are entirely different. And how you massage all of those deals going into the boardroom is something that politicians / commissioners do very well.
Out there in sports right now, Rick, what do you think? What commissioner of one of the Big Four and maybe even a conference, who do you think has the toughest job ahead of them?
Wow, that's an interesting one because there are a lot of different kinds of jobs. You could say that Rob Manfred has a tough job ahead of him because the collective bargaining agreement's coming up. They've got a lot of issues of pace of play and others, but that's they've got Oakland and Tampa stadium situations, but that's not as big an issue as what some of the commissioners have had before. Adam Silver has an issue of how to equalize the salary cap over time. You've got a free agent issue, and how do you deal with the major injuries now with Thompson and Durant? I know they're medical, but they're also business issues. And so, Roger Goodell has issues because it is an $18 billion a year league, but they're up against what might be a really big collective bargaining agreement issue. And Gary Bettman is great because I sat with him during the Stanley Cup finals, and it was his birthday, and he gave me a piece of birthday cake, so he's the best.
Is it tough for Roger Goodell because he is the big one? He's on top. Is that why he gets so much criticism, or does he invite some of it, Rick?
Well, it's a style thing. I know Roger well, and he is he's very serious at certain things. Mm-hmm. To follow Paul Tagliabue, who's a lawyer who speaks like a lawyer very carefully, and Roger is not. It's just a different style that may be misinterpreted. And then they both followed Pete Rozelle, who was the ultimate showman and the PR guy. So you could say he brought it on himself, but I think a lot of it has to do with style.
Well, Rick, one of the wealthiest leagues in sports is the NBA, and something that came about in 2017 and now has just finished up its second season is the patches on the jerseys, which has been a big moneymaker, it seems, with the Lakers sponsor Wish being the biggest one, at least this past year. How has that been working with the NBA? I was a little skeptical of it at first, didn't know if I would like it, but it seems to have done very well for the NBA, and it's bringing in more money to a league that's already got a ton.
Well, the point is it's found money, so you don't have to worry about taking money away from somebody else and reallocating it. The dividing it up is easy for the commissioner because they said, all right, here's new money. Everybody gets some. 3-year deals. You know the 3-year deal is going to be extended. They're in the middle of now. They're starting their third year soon. And everybody signed basically 3-year test deals with options to extend. So, Wish is a company that was lucky enough to get on the Lakers jerseys. Why is it important? Because LeBron, and more LeBron. Who did they replace or who did they displace as number one? Cleveland. Goodyear was the patch deal in Cleveland, and, of course, that was LeBron. So a lot of this is still photos carry the day. There's more of these patches on player jerseys than when you look at kind of mobile stuff, and that's one of the reasons marketing people say this is worth that much. So it's a good deal.
And very proud here to have on the Memphis Grizzlies jersey, FedEx, and it was very instrumental in some stability for this franchise here. We're visiting with Rick Horrow on the business of sports. You've seen Rick through the years at CNBC and MSNBC. You've read him as an author and visiting professor at Harvard. Rick, last night with the NBA season ending and Golden State ending their long run in Oakland, they're going back across the bay to the new arena being built, and they will open in this fall in San Francisco. What will the money look like for them leaving Oakland? Was it just that good a deal that they had to?
Well, they control their own destiny now. It's a real estate play. It's on San Francisco Bay. They're going to build a lot of retail, and the owners are going to be in the retail residential real estate business for a long time now. They're going to increase their prices significantly. A lot of it's already sold out. Chase got the naming rights. It's called Chase Center. And so everybody was kind of geared to them being a 3-time defending champion. And, of course, that didn't work out, but the numbers are still good because everything is pre-sold in that arena. And when you think about it, you can't feel too sorry for the Warriors, even though it is kind of a passing of the dynasty, unless I'm missing my guess and a lot of other people are, because next year they're looking forward to, in just 3 short months, the opening of a beautiful new building.
Well, Rick, we really appreciate you joining us today, and enjoy the rest of your weekend at Pebble Beach. It'll be fun. Who do you think will win? Can Justin Rose stay on top? He had a 70 today to get to 7 under at around the 36-hole mark. Can Justin Rose make it number 2 at a U.S. Open?
Yeah, here's the thing. I was listening to Koepka's interview, his post-round interview, and he is in already. He doesn't even want to do any of these interviews. So I'm going with my man Koepka. Plus, he lives down the street, and I figure if he wins another tournament, the value of my house goes up.
and that would always be good for property values to go up. Rick Horrow, happy Father's Day on Sunday, and we'll visit again next Friday. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rick.
You too, my friend. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
You got it. Rick Horrow talking the business of sports with us.